Everyone, let me ask you a question. Exactly how much money would you need in your bank account to feel that your life is finally perfect? Is it $1 million? 10 million? 100 million? Most of us have a number, but in reality, saying this is enough is one of the hardest things for a human being to do. Today, we are going to talk about a man who sought that answer more fiercely than anyone in history. Marcus Licinius Crassus, the wealthiest man in ancient Rome. Crassus once famously said, "No man is truly rich unless he can support an entire army on his own private income." Can you even imagine that level of wealth? It's not just being rich. It's having the power to feed, clothe, and arm thousands of soldiers who decide the fate of nations. Yet, ironically, this man, whose fortune would be worth billions in today's world, never felt a moment of true satisfaction. His bottomless hunger eventually drove him into the scorching deserts of Parthia, leading him to a gruesome and humiliating end. Today's story is not just about a businessman who went bankrupt. It is a story about the cruel trap hidden behind the glittering mask of success. Why did Rome's greatest tycoon have to kneel before an enemy king and face execution by having molten gold poured down his throat? As you listen, I want you to apply the one philosophical question he missed to your own life. Where is your enough? Crassus didn't start at the top. In fact, he grew up watching his family's legacy crumble. During the Roman civil wars, his family members were killed and their assets were seized. This massive void experienced in his youth likely left an indelible scar, an obsession with wealth that could never be healed. When he returned to Rome, he began accumulating wealth with a chilling, almost surgical precision. Have you ever heard of a real estate genius? Crassus was on a different level. He organized a private fire brigade of 500 highly trained slaves. Back then, Rome was a labyrinth of wooden buildings, and fires were frequent and devastating. When a building caught fire, Crassus would rush to the scene, but he didn't put out the fire immediately. Instead, he would approach the desperate owner and offer to buy the burning property and the surrounding buildings for a fraction of their value. If the owner refused, the fire brigade stood still. If they signed, the fire was extinguished. In this way, he eventually owned more than half of Rome. It was a cold-blooded business model that turned other people's tragedies into his own profit. This was the foundation of the golden empire of Crassus. By his peak, Crassus's personal wealth was nearly equal to the entire annual budget of the Roman treasury. But here is the strange part. The more he accumulated, the more anxious he became. Why? Because in Roman society, wealth was merely a tool. The ultimate prize was honor and military glory. Crassus had two rivals, or rather, two ghosts that haunted him. One was Pompey the Great, hailed as a godlike war hero. The other was the young, charismatic Julius Caesar, who was quickly becoming the darling of the masses. Although Crassus joined them to form the first triumvirate, the three-man alliance that ruled Rome, he felt empty. People borrowed his money, but behind his back, they whispered that he was just a greedy merchant. Isn't our lives often the same? We reach a certain social status. We save up some money, but then we see a neighbor doing better, or we feel a pang of inferiority at a school reunion. Crassus couldn't stand being just the rich guy. He looked at the military trophies of his peers and decided, at the age of 60, an old man by Roman standards, that he would become a war hero. He ignored all warnings and funded 7 legions out of his own pocket. He marched into the unknown lands of Parthia, unaware that he was walking into his own grave. In 53 BC, Crassus led 40,000 men into the searing heat of the Mesopotamian desert. He was in a rush. He wanted a quick victory to prove his worth to Pompey and Caesar. But the desert does not care about your ego. The Parthian army avoided a direct confrontation. Instead, they used horse archers to slowly pick the Roman legions apart from a distance. The most devastating blow came when his beloved son, Publius, was killed in battle. The Parthians cut off his son's head and paraded it on a spear in front of Crassus. As a father, he was shattered, but he couldn't stop. Or rather, he didn't know how to stop. This is the most terrifying aspect of unstoppable desire. When the exit is no longer visible, we fall into the delusion that just a little further will save us. Whether in business or in life, the courage to stop when losses begin is far harder than the skill to accumulate wealth. Crassus lacked that courage. Crassus was eventually captured during a botched negotiation. The Parthian general, mocking the man who loved gold more than his own soul, performed a legendary execution. They poured molten gold into his mouth, saying, "Since you were so thirsty for gold in life, drink it now in death." Epicurus, the Greek philosopher, once said, "The wealth required by nature is limited and easy to procure, but the wealth required by vain ideals extends to infinity." Crassus was the richest man in Rome, but spiritually, he was the poorest. He tried to prove his value through what he possessed, but in the end, his possessions were what killed him. For those of us moving through the middle chapters of our lives, the wisdom we need is not how to fill more, but how to maintain and let go. Is your wealth a tool for your happiness or a shackle around your soul? If Crassus had been satisfied with a simple piece of bread in a Roman bakery before he left, history would have been different. I hope today's story encourages you to find your own enough. Desire is like salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you get. But gratitude is like a spring. The more you drink, the more your soul is at peace. Where are you standing today? In the desert of thirst or by the peaceful spring?